Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. We're still working outside in the garden today, working on the Japanese garden and fencing. So we have had some ups and downs with fencing here. We had our living willow fence that we've used in a few areas around the garden, and that is coming along lovely. We did use a dead hedge just to do the border of this first bed for us, but that started to turn into a living fence. The uprights we were using started to grow. We didn't wait until that had all dried out to then use that. So because we didn't want it to be growing, we decided to pull it out, and we picked up these sort of strips of timber bark. They're from a spruce, we think, but they have such a lovely texture on the back of them where the bark is, but they do have this very lovely uniform side as well. So we figured using both in the garden would give us a rustic and also a bit more of a neater finish, depending on which side we wanted to be showing in which part of the garden. This area we did keep with the beams that we used previously, but again the uprights on these one or two have started to grow, so we are going to have to replace this one as well. But for now it's not too much of an issue, so we just wanted to keep this area a bit more open for now, but we will probably be changing it in the future. For the cottage garden area, we definitely wanted more of a rustic feel, so these beams definitely did the job with the textured bark side of them. So we defined the edge of the path on that side and just the definition between this side of the garden and the garden beyond by doing a small little fence. To define the edge between what is our ornamental gardens and what is going to be our allotment space, Ross wanted to do this picket fence. It's kind of a rough style picket fence. Using these beams turned out to be much cheaper than buying fencing panels. We were considering that because we did definitely want to have things that were a little more uniform. But we really like the effect that this fence has given. It has saved us a little bit of money, and it means that we can have sort of two feelings with using the same material. So on this side it is a bit smoother as it's the inside of where the wood has been cut, and on the other side it is rougher as it's the textured trunk side of the tree, and it gives a much more rustic feel.
So these planks that we were using were 240 centimeters long. That meant that we could break them up into small lengths of 60 centimeters, meaning we could get 4 sections per plank. They could be 80 centimeters long, meaning we could get 3 lengths per plank. Or we could have large sections of 120 centimeters long, meaning we could get 2 lengths per plank. The horizontal fence, we used the full length of them, just cut in half along the length of them. For the picket fence, we put in the large 120 centimeter length planks and hammered them in to secure them in place. We then used the full length cut in half horizontally between those, and then used the medium lengths of 80 centimeters for picket planks. marked them all from the top so that they would be the same height, and we measured the halfway point between the two longer lengths. But instead of measuring from the edge of the plank, we actually measured from the halfway mark, meaning that the planks on the first panel weren't evenly spaced. We soon realised what we'd done and quickly fixed it so that all the planks were even. We just repeated this process along the full length of the fencing, and we're really pleased with how it came out. We think it looks really quite lovely in this area. It definitely defines the space, and it just creates that very strong boundary between the ornamental gardens and the allotment space.
So as well as getting the timber for our fencing for the garden, we have also got the timber for framing and cladding out the caravan. We got all of our timber from Crow's Lumberyard in Mohill, who delivered it for us and have been amazing at giving us plenty of options and supplying exactly what we need. We aren't going to rush to clad the caravan. It's going to be a bit of a sort of long summer project for us, as we want to take our time. So the full structural build of that will probably come in a much later video, but you may see parts of it in the background of the videos we put up over the summer. So I was actually quite against bringing in any machinery onto the land again to try and reduce the amount of compaction that we are getting in our garden. We've really struggled to dig in certain areas of the ornamental beds because of the compaction from when we had a telehandler here and tractors coming in and moving things. The soil has really took a beating from that, so I was quite against it, but against my better judgment, I did say that we would have a rotavator come in. So a family member has a rotavator that they put on the back of their fairly light tractor, so he brought it in, and between a couple of the lads they rotavated this area of the allotment space to try and level it out, as it was still quite uneven, and to just try and turn up a lot of the branches and the stones that were close to the surface. They have actually done a great job, as we also had a leveler in here after that to try and level this area out. It means that the soil has broken up a little bit, so the compaction isn't as bad, and it also means that we could move that soil around and bring it up to areas where the topsoil had kind of washed away, or where there were dips in the land, which was an issue from the start. So now we have this big open space and we can start planting in it. We have to restrain ourselves a little bit because this area at the bottom still hasn't been cleared. We are still waiting for our guy to come and cut these tree trunks down from when we took down the trees. But we are also going to have to rotivate and level that area as well for when our polytunnel gets put in. So in the meantime, we know that we have this area ready. We have started to line things along the fence, as that is probably the only area that we can really risk planting things at the minute. So we have some blueberries, a twisted hazel and a cranberry at the minute. I'm also planting up strawberries and heathers and a few currant bushes along there, so it'll be a bit of a sort of a fruit corridor along that side of the fence. It also gives us a big level space now for us to put our seedlings and things that we are going to be planting later in the season, and certainly things that we're going to be planting into the polytunnel once that gets installed. So it's certainly a much better space now. I'm a little bit worried that it's so exposed, because that does mean that it's open to weed seeds coming into it, but hopefully it won't be too long before we start planting up our allotment garden.
So now we're going to move on to the Japanese garden. We planted up some bits between the fence where the cottage garden was because we want to build up a bit of a barrier. The idea was that you couldn't see the Japanese garden when you initially come into the space. That the garden as a whole kind of hid what the Japanese garden was and hid what was beyond, so that when you came into it, it would kind of open up into that space and you would feel this kind of overwhelming kind of feeling of peace and serenity and sort of, you know, I don't want to say zen, but that kind of feeling, you know, it's a very peaceful space, and kind of separate from all the bright and colourful areas of the other gardens. So we have planted up twisted willow, a box hedge piece. We put some Japanese laurel in there, as they do get quite big and they take up quite a lot of space. And we've put a hydrangea and also a copper beech. We knew we wanted that big ornamental grass that had kind of been sat there in the same place for a long time, and it was about time we got it in the ground. It has been quite warm here, so like when we sort of planted out the cottage garden, we knew we needed to start getting things in the ground as they were drying out in the pots. These will all act as a backdrop for the cottage garden from that perspective, but also as a backdrop for the Japanese garden, just to have kind of a bushier line between the two. Obviously we do have the fence there as well, but we wanted them to kind of grow in and out of the fence and kind of almost become one with it to really create that border. We have also bought a little pine tree to sort of give the illusion that you're coming into a bit of a different space. So we've used a different type of plant to that will grow up and will also like block quite a bit of the view from the front of the garden of what is beyond it. We put this Camphori larix in first because we just love the texture of the plant and the leaves. We knew we wanted certain plants in this area, so obviously Japanese maples were a big point that we wanted to bring into this area. Ferns and hostas were also going to be heavily planted in this area, ornamental grasses as well, and we did have a few plants that we put to one side that Ross would like to try and bonsai, and then we would probably put them in pots as a bit of a decorative element in this space. We knew we wanted bamboo in this garden, and we do have a bit in this pot here that we got from our previous garden, but we know that this one travels, which is why we're leaving it in a pot. We're probably going to put some somewhere along the boundary edge here, but we want to make sure that the bamboo that we get doesn't travel and doesn't spread. And we love the look of black bamboo, so we are currently talking to Alma from the poppy garden to see if she can get us some black bamboo, because she has some down there and it is simply gorgeous. We have rotivated half of the area. Even though we did rotivate, there are still large stones not far underneath the soil. So it was still a bit of a struggle to plant out some of the maples and things that we've got going in this area. We knew obviously we wanted a lot of Japanese maples here that would interact with each other and the space. So we wanted a variety of colours. We did pick up a few new ones as well as using some old ones that we already owned. The thing with the Japanese garden is there are a lot of elements to it. So the planting is only one element of it. We know we want a torii gate style entrance, or rather exit, because it'll be an entrance to the allotment space, but we knew we wanted a torii gate style structure in that part of the garden. We also knew we wanted a fairly large bench that we could go and sit at and enjoy the space. Water needs to be a big element in this garden as well. We know we have our little pond in the cottage garden, but we know we want some sort of water feature that we're probably going to add down the line, because we want to pick the perfect thing for it, and we aren't 100% sure of exactly what we want just at the minute. We also have structural elements like the storm lantern. We have a little Buddha statue. These are going to be elements that kind of sit in and amongst the planting, as well as some large landscape rocks. And we're probably also going to be using a bit more gravel in this area, but it will be different to the gravel we've used elsewhere in the garden on the main path around the space. So we have a lot of things that are going to be contending with each other, so we want them to harmonise and work with each other rather than clash. The Japanese garden is going to take us probably the longest amount of time to do, because it's just requiring a hell of a lot more planning and a lot more thought process behind where we want elements to be, how we want them to sit in the landscape together, and how we want them to harmonise with each other. So the Japanese garden is definitely a work in progress. It's going to be something that we're probably going to be dipping back into over a few videos as we find elements that we feel work for it. We want to take our time with it to make sure that it delivers exactly what we want from it. That's where we're up to now. We have obviously cleared the allotment space now, so that is probably going to be what we're working on next. We're hopefully going to be taking a few steps towards starting our house renovation as well, so we will try and bring you along for that, as well as framing out and cladding our caravan for the summer project as well. So lots going on in different areas, lots of things happening, so there may be a few different videos coming up in the future. I may also do a then and now video of what the property was like when we first bought it and what we have done to it up to this point. If you like the idea of that, please let me know in the comments below, and I will do a little then and now video between when we bought it and what we've been up to since then. Thanks so much for coming by, and we will see you in the next video.